but to us, it'll be a disaster. Shut up. So today, we're going to talk about appointments again and the Democrats losing their minds. I don't know how they could be constantly exacerbated. Like, everything's the worst thing ever. Everything. Trump's Hitler, he's Hitler, he's Hitler, he's Hitler, he's Hitler. And it's like, well, what about the video now that we have of Joe Biden and Trump shaking hands and Biden being like, yeah, we're going to help him transition and do anything we can to help him. But it's Hitler. How could you do that to us, Biden? Unless you guys didn't really mean it. Okay, forget about that narrative. Trump's a Russian agent. Oh, that was bullshit. Oh, well, forget about that. Trump's overthrown democracy. Oh, that was bullshit. Forget about that. Trump's a fascist. He's Hitler. Oh, that was bullshit. Forget about that. RFK being appointed is the worst thing that'll ever happen to this country. It's just one perpetual outrage after the other. Everything's the biggest deal ever. I like the appointments that Trump's making overall. There are specific ones like Marco Rubio that I'm not a fan of, but I like them overall. I'll tell you why. The problem with Trump's first administration was that he wasn't really sure how to go about all these appointments. And he went with the traditional thought of, well, you need people to drain the swamp that are qualified for the positions. And what do the qualifications mean? Well, to the Washington class and the media class, the qualifications basically mean people that are involved in the swamp in some way or another. So they're going to be furious anytime you point someone that's from outside of that. That's the truth. So, yeah, it's true that if you're appointing people that your design is to sort of humble these agencies, which I think have too much power and sabotage Trump and are corrupt and don't care about the will of the people, then yeah, you're going to put people in that are hypercritical of them. That's the whole point. Furthermore, what you need is demolishers, disruptors. That's what we need. The ideal president for me would be someone like an ideologue that I agree with. But what we have is a system, a bureaucratic system that is so huge, so inept, and so corrupt that before you could rebuild it, you must demolish it. Trump's a demolisher. Someone like DeSantis is arguably someone who could begin rebuilding. So arguably, it's time for Trump, not DeSantis, because you have to take down the ineptitude, the corruption, the bureaucracy before you could build something back up. That's what many of these appointments are. RFK at HHS, Health and Human Services, that's a guy who's going to go in there with a sledgehammer. That's a guy who's going to say, Big Pharma's been screwing us over and it's been working with people at HHS. We're going to get to the bottom of it. That's exactly what needs to happen. Matt Gaetz is someone who's going to do that as Attorney General. Maybe he committed crimes. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he's a shitty person. Maybe he's not. But I do know this. He's the type of person with an axe to grind at places like the FBI. Good. Tom Homan, dealing with the border. Good. He's a guy who's got an axe to grind about immigration. Yes, that's what you want. Elon Musk, Vivek, people with axe to grind about the size of bureaucracy. Good. But anyways, so you see all these people that are considered disruptors that are, they're not qualified. They're bullshit. We have a corrupt FBI. The qualifications for someone to be the director of the FBI is going to be, they have to be from the FBI and connected to it in some way, which would also make them corrupt. So no thanks. I like some Democrats. I like my friend Tom. There's a lot of friends that I have in real life that are Democrats. I like them. I do. Some of them voted for Trump this time. Others didn't. They still voted for Kamala. Some of them despise Trump more than any politician. Others just think he sucks. Okay? There are streamers that I interact with. Some of them I'm giving a hard time after the election here because I think they deserve it. But I don't really hate any of them. Much to the chagrin of some of my audience that think that I'm too chummy with some of these left-wingers. Oh well, it's who I am. I don't wish ill to them. I hope our country thrives and it thrives for them. That's how I honestly feel. However, having said all of that, I don't give a fuck at what any of those people, with few exceptions, have to say about these cabinet picks. At all. That's my answer to you. Too bad, should have won. Sorry. For example, Chuck Schumer was saying, oh, if we win, we're going to end the filibuster. We're going to pack the Supreme Court. Then once Republicans win, all of a sudden he changes his message to, well, remember, bipartisanship is very important. Take a seat, Chuck. I don't give a shit with the people that were fine with the fact that everyone that Trump appointed to the DOJ was fired within a week of Biden taking office, that they appointed people like Matthew Graves with the specific intent of going after Trump supporters, that they went after people that were just silently praying outside abortion clinics because they were mad about Roe v. Wade, that they allowed the protest at Supreme Court justices' houses, which is illegal blatantly, after the leak of the Dobbs decision, which, oh, by the way, they never got to the bottom of, that they had multiple prosecutors in multiple districts go after Donald Trump using lawfare, including some that ran on the promise of getting Donald Trump, that they sent the number 2 at the DOJ mysteriously, and in something that never happens, to take a mysterious demotion to end up working for Alvin Bragg's office to help prosecute Trump. I don't want to hear about norms. But Rob, at least they appointed qualified people. Want me to bring up some pictures? How about the trans lady or gentleman, whatever pronoun they prefer to use, that likes to steal luggage? How about that? Is that a qualified pick? Can anyone tell me what Pete Buttigieg ever had to do with transportation before he was Secretary of Transportation? Anyone? They couldn't find an engineer? They got Pete Buttigieg. How about Health Secretary Levine? I'm not even going to get into the trans issue, which I think was I don't give a shit that she's trans. I give a shit the policy she wanted involving children and medications on children, which I think is disgusting. But let's just look at the qualifications there. Levine was in charge, I forget what their official title was in Pennsylvania here, but during 2020, during the pandemic, Health Secretary Levine. Levine failed in spectacular ways. For example, Levine told people that you were non-essential, was instrumental in policies that said you were cowards. Thank you so much, Goku. I appreciate it. You are a coward if you didn't lock down in the face of COVID. Defended Tom Wolf violating his own orders. Forced nursing homes to accept COVID patients while she removed her mother out of a long-term care facility while telling all of us it would be safe. Those are spectacular failures, which led to the promotion in the Biden administration. The cast of characters that were appointed by the Biden administration looks like a circus. Oh, well, they won. Merrick Garland was one of the most corrupt attorney generals that we've ever had. Remember when he signed a memo suggesting that the FBI would be utilized to look into parents that were angry at school board meetings? I watched the whole hearing. How did you come to this conclusion? They asked him. Well, he had 2 pieces of evidence that he said. One was the letter that was sent from the National School Board Association, I believe was the organization, a letter that they then had to retract. That was the bulk of Merrick Garland's decision, based on a letter from an organization of school boards that worked in tandem with the White House that said that they should use the Patriot Act to treat these people like terrorists, the letter that had to be retracted. In that letter, it identified criminality of people. There were 3 instances of criminality that it identified. 3 in the whole letter. I read it. The first seems to be legitimate. Parents arguing at a school board meeting, after the meeting goes up, shove someone. That's assault. Does that require the FBI investigating parents around the country? I don't think so. But okay, at least that's an example of disorderly conduct or some sort of assault. The second example was people that were investigated for making Nazi salutes, but that wasn't rabid right-wingers that were actual Nazis. That was them being satirical at people in the school board for forcing kids to mask and to be locked down. The third example, I always forget, was from, I forget the school district or the county, but it was the story of this gentleman who got arrested at a school board meeting. And I believe the charge there was disorderly conduct. Law broken. What was that story, you may ask? Well, that was the story where his daughter was essayed in school in a restroom by a non-binary or cross-dresser or trans person, a biological male that was in the female restroom. And then when he felt that his daughter wasn't receiving justice and he showed up to the school board meeting, he had to hear the principal lie and say, no incidents like that have occurred. So he started yelling, which I think is remarkably reserved, because if it was my daughter, I'd have probably did more than yelling. So the National School Board Union, whatever, Loudoun County, that was it. They retracted the letter. But Merrick Garland had another reason. He said, and I'm quoting now, reports I've heard on the news. Really? So not that the FBI had received tips or did investigations and said, oh boy, we're getting a lot of evidence. No, a letter from a school board association working with the White House that had to be retracted, and quote, reports on the news. He couldn't cite a specific report when asked, but that was it. So we weaponized the FBI to go after Americans, to investigate Americans. By the way, then we had whistleblowers from the FBI come out and say, contrary to what we were told, yes, there were agents that were set on the ground outside of these school board meetings to investigate. And when agents spoke up in protest, they were punished. That's who Merrick Garland was. That's who the appointments of Joe Biden were. Democrats are freaking out because they're saying, it's the old Frank Herbert quote, right? Here, I'll pull the quote up. It's a good one. When I am weaker than you, I ask you for freedom because that is according to your principles. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom because that is according to my principles. That's who they are, though. When Democrats say it's all go, weaponize it, we don't give a shit, use our power, we won, F you. Then when Republicans get in there, it's like, but norms! We don't want aggressive people at the DOJ. You can't investigate your opponents. You can't do that. Tough shit. I don't want to hear word one from any Democrat that didn't speak up against the obvious lawfare in the situations that I just outlined. Tough shit. Look at the defense. For example, look at Russiagate. So when I debated these left-wingers, the IG report does say that Russiagate, the investigation, had a legitimate predicate. But that's because the bar for starting an investigation is incredibly low when it comes to the DOJ or the FBI. Okay, I guess if we hear rumors that Biden's team was up to anything, or Chuck Schumer's team or Nancy Pelosi's team, might as well investigate, right? What's the problem? I was told by Democrats, it's all good in the hood. No problem at all. We're just doing due diligence, and if they find crimes unrelated to other things, hey, that's the game. That's the game, right? That's what I'll be saying. Well, the bar's very low for starting an investigation, so all of you lefties, calm down. It's perfectly reasonable. No problem at all, right? None. Maybe they'll decide to work in tandem with places like X to get presidential candidates for the other side banned. Perfectly reasonable. It was fine when they did it to Trump, right? No problem. That's the way it goes, right? The Democrat, it's unfortunate that it's come to this. It has. It's unfortunate. It's the same story with cancel culture. We've talked about this many times in the show. My preference would be this, that people take a deep breath and realize, hey, if a company, if a TV studio, if a video game studio, if an author, if a painter, whatever, if someone disagrees with me politically, it's okay. I don't want them to lose their job. I'm not calling for a boycott. That would have been my preference. But because the Democrats, in particular, the left and the Democrats, the face of it, controlled so much of our political and cultural power, they decided to go scorched earth, canceling people. They haven't for years. People like me said, no, don't reciprocate. Cooler heads will prevail. Cooler heads did not prevail. So you're a corporation. Let's say you're Budweiser. Now you feel like, well, we have to wade into the political conversation. On one hand, if we piss off the Republicans, they'll go, "Duh," and then they'll still buy our products. On the other hand, if we piss off the Democrats, they'll boycott us and get us shamed as bigots. I wonder which side we're going to pay lip service to. So eventually Republicans are like, we're going to fight back. We'll start boycotting people for almost nothing. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Oh, John Deere, fuck you, DEI, boycott. Bud Light, fuck you, boycott. Uh-oh, now the landscape's changing. I wish it didn't come to that. But the Democrats wouldn't listen. Even if it was a vocal minority, they continued unabated. They wouldn't listen. I didn't want lawfare. I don't want district attorneys from all over the country saying, okay, now that our party won the national election, we're going to weaponize our state's district attorneys to go after who we see as the political frontrunner for the other party. I think that's a terrible idea. But Democrats thought it was good. They set the precedent. Perfectly fine. Entirely reasonable to do so. I think the idea of getting FISA warrants on major political campaigns is fucking insane. Particularly if it's based on opposition research paid for by, I guess that goes in the opponent, which is a little redundant. But that's the standard that's been set. Everybody said it was okay. Still, you talk to Democrats, there was a lot to the Russia investigation. There was a lot to it. Okie dokie. Start investigating them all, right? I thought it was absurd taking crimes that are basically nothing, like campaign finance crimes, and making them into 37 felonies using a novel legal theory when we know that Hillary's team did the exact same thing, only more blatant, and they didn't get punished. I thought that was ridiculous. Democrats all thought it was great. Okay, here's something that I heard. Apparently, I could be wrong about this, but I heard someone saying this. The penalty for destroying federal documents is up to 2 years. And I saw someone say that what Matt Gaetz should do is, every time we find out that any federal agency destroyed a document, everyone that was involved, they should charge for each specific document. Oh, you shredded 1,000 documents? You're looking at 2,000 years in prison. That's what they should do. Oh, that's 1,000 crimes. Felonies, maybe. 1,000. Sound harsh? Sorry, they didn't give a shit about Trump. 37 felonies. Well, it's a big number, isn't it? And for what? Oh, because allegedly his lawyer paid hush money that he reimbursed to Stormy Daniels. That's a campaign finance violation. Of course, Hillary's team actually was found guilty by the FEC of a campaign finance violation where they falsified documents. But they didn't get 37 felonies. There's a left-wing protest and it gets violent. Lock them all up. Solitary confinement. Fuck off. Blast their pictures all over the national media. Right? That's the standard. Here's one that there's not a standard for, but I'm for. Go after all these fucking pricks that broke their own lockdown orders. These hypocrite pieces of shit that ruined so many lives and got incredibly wealthy while the rules didn't apply to them. Let's see if they committed any crimes. Why not? That's why it's there, right? That's why the DOJ's there. Just to make sure. That's the whole point, right? Again, how many Democrats had a problem with people like, was it Letitia James that said she was going to run on getting Trump? How many had a problem with that? How many said, wow, that's incredibly inappropriate? How many spoke up? Okie dokie. Them's the rules. So I just don't give a shit. I don't give a shit that the people that were comfortable with all of these institutions being weaponized on their behalf now saying, please don't do it to us. It will be a disaster. Shut up.